Major development in the investigation surrounding the U.S. Capitol Police officer who died after defending the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection. This video from that day right there. 2 men are arrested and charged with assault on Officer Brian Sicknick. Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald is live at the federal courthouse. Tom, what can you tell us?
All right, well, what we learned this morning is that there are 2 individuals that were both arrested, charged, and today facing a federal judge. Those individuals, we are told, are 39-year-old George Tanios of Morgantown, West Virginia, and also 32-year-old Julian Khater of Pennsylvania. Now, Tanios, we're told, was picked up at his house in West Virginia. Khater was arrested at Newark Airport in New Jersey as he was getting off a plane. Now, collectively, they are facing 9 charges in all, but keep in mind, these are assault charges. They are not charged with murder. Now, the investigation has been trying to figure out exactly what it is that caused Officer Sicknick's death, and so far, toxicology reports have not returned exactly what a cause of death is. Now, the acting Capitol Police Chief said just 2 weeks ago, before testimony at the Congress, that they consider Officer Sicknick's death a line of duty death as he was responding to the Capitol insurrection. However, these charges filed today, this arrest, does not include a murder charge because of the fact that there is no direct connection right now between the bear spraying of Officer Sicknick and his death, which came the day after the Capitol riot. Now, we were able to look at these court documents that were filed by federal prosecutors today. Now, in it, they described Tanios as being the one who actually, according to these documents, sprayed Officer Sicknick with the bear spray and used an expletive and calling for Khater to give it to him. Now, not only was this written testimony in these court documents, however, there were photographs taken from some of the hundreds of security videos that were taken the day of the January 6th insurrection. So in addition to the testimony and the court documents that were filed today, there is visual evidence that was filed as part of this as well.
Tom, this has obviously been a case that has had national attention considering it was Officer Sicknick, a Capitol Police officer that was killed. But why has it taken so long to come up with these developments with all the evidence that's been presented from the insurrection?
Well, you know, it's a good question. It was 2 months ago on March 7th when this insurrection took place. We were initially told, in immediate aftermath of Officer Sicknick's death, that he had died after being struck by a fire extinguisher. Now, later on, we were told that he collapsed and died at a hospital as a result of a medical emergency. So we still do not exactly know, more than 2 months later now, exactly what killed Officer Sicknick. We do know that the medical examiner's report is not complete yet. A major component of the answer to that question would be the toxicology report. Now, what they were investigating is whether or not Officer Sicknick had a medical reaction to that bear spray that was seen shot in his face. However, the fact that they do not have that yet probably played a large role in the charges we saw today, which we should point out, if these 2 individuals are convicted of just these 9 charges, they could face 20 years in a federal prison.
Wow. I was also reading that another officer was sprayed by this unknown substance. Do we know the latest on that officer?
Yeah, in fact, there were 2 other officers that are mentioned in these court documents today who were fighting alongside Officer Sicknick as they were trying their best to protect the Capitol from this onslaught of rioters who eventually were able to penetrate the Capitol building. In all, there were a large number of all kinds of injuries that day. I personally saw a lot of those officers because I was at the Capitol that day. They were bloodied about the head. They were struck. One individual who I was standing right next to you could see red fingerprints still on his face from the struggle that he had just been in. So, you know, Officer Sicknick obviously is somebody who laid in honor in the United States Capitol as a line of duty death. But the casualties from that day were enormous from the Capitol police officers who were not only injured in trying to fight to protect that Capitol, but also they carry emotional scars from all of this as well.
Mm-hmm. As did you, I'm sure. What will you be watching when it comes to this investigation, and what should we be watching as far as developments go?
When this medical examiner's report comes in, that is going to be very important because, as we said, we still do not know exactly what the cause of death for Officer Sicknick exactly was. The hope here is not only for the men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police Force, but Officer Sicknick's family as well, to try to understand exactly what it was that killed him. And if they are able to determine that, there could be a new round of charges moving forward from federal prosecutors.
All right, Tom Fitzgerald out there at the Capitol giving us the very latest. We appreciate you. And more than 300 have been charged in connection to the January 6th insurrection. And the DOJ is saying that that could pass 400. Again, Tom, thanks for being with us. We're going to take this moment here to send some of you off to a 2-minute commercial break here on News Now from Fox. When we come back, we're following some other developing stories across the country. See you in 2. And for those